Welcome to Geek Out with Perry. We've been discussing themes that are very important in running a service and how we run our Exchange Online service in the cloud. People often ask us if the culture of our Exchange engineering team has changed now that we not only build software from the ground up, but have the opportunity to run it for customers in Live at EDU, BPOS, and the evolution to Office 365. So Perry, before we talked about high availability, and now we're discussing how the culture of engineering has changed for the Exchange team. So what's happened since we started running the service?
I think the most fundamental way the culture has changed has been this idea of the Exchange team now understands that our product is this end-to-end service, not just the software we ship. So individual developers really do get directly involved in the operation and running of the service. This was a very concrete choice we made 3 years ago when we first started down this path. And we thought about it quite a bit, about how to actually make the people systems align with the work that we're trying to do.
So what have we changed?
Okay. So last time we talked a bit about the components of making sure this complex system stayed available. We were talking about how important it is to reduce your recovery time, to make sure the length of an outage isn't bad. And if you think about it, one example of reducing recovery time is to get down to zero, right? Zero equals preemption.
Yep.
Right? The way you do that is by creating a feedback loop that goes very quickly from an issue you see in your service back to root cause and making modifications in software to deal with new failure modes you've noticed because of changes in hardware or other issues that show up.
Okay.
Doing this quickly requires really direct engagement by the product groups.
Okay.
We like to, have very planful product releases with specific milestones. The lead time on that can be a little bit long. When you're running a service and the service is your product, you really do need to respond very rapidly to any changes in the system. It's amazing how true this statement here is. NICs fail, hard drives fail, people pull out backhoes and cut power lines. Whole data centers go down. It's amazing how many different ways this can affect the system you're dealing with. Creating that tight feedback loop of the actual engineers who wrote the original product, who were responsible for developing the monitoring system to make sure that we know when issues are going on. And then direct engagement when an issue arises to both make sure that the recovery time's fast and that we extract every piece of information we can to go back to root cause and make sure that we have built-in robustness to deal with that issue. Okay. Really requires the engineers directly engaged in it. So the decision we made, I think, is the core to shifting the culture, was that component teams would be responsible for the monitoring directly as part of the product development. It wouldn't be something built by a separate group. And that the pageable alerts, the highest level of alerts that needed to get responded to in real time, would go directly to engineers, developers, unmediated by human beings.
Yep.
So this created a really interesting feedback loop. If there was issues in the service, you're going to get woken up in the middle of the night. You're going to want to make sure that you're not getting spurious alerts that cause their own set of problems. You're going to want to make sure that you are finding all the important issues because you're going to get measured on this key metric.
Okay.
And then you're also going to want to really spend time thinking about how to build in the robustness right into the system so that that alert doesn't go off anymore. Also, when you start thinking about building new features, the learning you've gone through by doing this goes into building features that are much more inherently robust, monitorable, and that all the issues in terms of understanding issues get built right into the system.
Okay.
And then even down here, right, this issue around scope, which I think is in some ways the complex system dynamics that you get with these very rich systems, is something that really requires engineers to have direct engagement on to get really good instincts about how the system actually behaves.
Okay.
If they're too isolated through that, through many layers of escalation engineers and operations engineers. They don't really get that same level of instincts of how the system actually works, as opposed to how it was designed to work.
Okay. So despite the fact that everything may fail,
Right.
we've built sort of systems and also processes to make sure that even if everything fails, we still achieve high availability for all of our customers.
Right. This is, yeah, I mean, the key point here is we need to deliver a product that has excellent uptime and recognize that any individual component of that product is, fallible, right? And you need to build the overall system to take care of all those underlying issues.
Thank you, Perry. You've just seen how our culture has shifted because we're building for the cloud and on premises. Geek out with Perry on his blog and leave us comments because we love hearing from you. Thanks.